So what we're making right here is one of my favorite, absolute favorite Filipino comfort foods, Munggo beans, GINISAng mungo. You know, everyone has a little take on the recipe, and that's really the key. The key for this is just to show you all out there how I make my Munggo beans. Now, it may not be the way that you make it traditionally, but all those Filipino flavors that you're looking for are there. So a couple key things that a lot of people have. I mean, the basics that they always have: onion, sibuyas, garlic, bawang, and kamates, tomatoes. Those are like the basic three, but I've seen people add ginger and some other things as well. Typically, everyone always uses dried shrimp. I like the flavor of dried shrimp, but you know, what I like even better than dried shrimp is shrimp paste, or bagoong, alamang. Once you try this, you'll be amazed at how it changes the flavor. Another thing that people do at the end is they put, as a finishing product, is they put chicharron. So instead of doing that, I try to take the crispiness of the fried shrimp, and how can I change that to make sure that I have the chicharron flavor? Well, I like using lechon kawale. Lechon kawale is what I use to put more protein in this dish. So lechon kawale is basically, it's a deep fried pork belly. It's an awesome, awesome food for palutan. Look that up, what palutan is. Some other key ingredients is salt. You could also have a little bit of pepper. And I've seen a lot of people sneak it in where they use chicken bouillon or what have you. I use this. I use a bouillon flavored powder. So you could buy a big one like this, save a ton of money, and use it for a long time. So I bought one of these at Costco, and I use it in just about everything. But this is one thing you never leave, you gotta have in your house. Never run out of fish sauce. Always have patis. Now, as far as a green, a vegetable, there are many different types of vegetables you could use to finish off your mungo, but I use just baby spinach. Why? Because it's available at my local grocery stores here in Anchorage, Alaska. So this is what I use. There's two ways to make mungo beans. You could either soak it overnight, soak it for at least 4 to 6 hours, 6 hours to be safe. That softens up these beans here. Or you could do it the way I'm gonna show you now, which is kind of like, I decided I want to eat mungo beans. I happen to have some lechon kawale, or I had some fried chicken, or I had some other type of protein that I want to add to it, and I just want to make mungo beans. Or my wife says, hey, make some mungo beans. So what I got in here, I got mungo beans soaking, but I'm not gonna soak it for the 4 to 6 hours or overnight. But what you want to do if you're just gonna cook it right away is you want to rinse it out. You want to wash your mungo beans. It's just like washing rice. All right, so I am going to turn this on. I'm gonna drop my mungo beans in here. I'm starting with 8 cups of water. And once this boils, it's gonna take about 35 to 45 minutes. But it's key, it's important that you check on it once you hit about the 30-minute mark to make sure it hasn't gone too soft yet. You just want to have some extra water on hand, so I put another 4 cups of water here. Check your water levels. This will eventually boil down. It'll reduce down to where it's just barely covering the mungo beans, and the mungo beans will expand as they rehydrate. So you just want to have some water on hand to add to it in case it reduces too much. All right, so always keep an eye on the mungo beans. Now, another thing I do is I add kosher salt, and I add that chicken bouillon to the sabaw right here, to the broth, the water that I have here. About 1 tablespoon of kosher salt. I take a tablespoon of this bouillon powder. Just mix it in there. Now we just bring this up to a boil, and once it boils, we start the timer. That's it, we wait. Now I just do all my prep work on all my aromatics and the lechon kawale, all right? All right, so you know that I love Filipino food. I grew up eating Filipino food. My mom's Filipino, and when I eat Filipino food, I have fond memories of my mom.
Every moment I was spending on regrets was such a waste, such a waste, such a waste.
I noticed that my mungo has started to boil. Sometimes it takes half an hour, sometimes it takes 45 minutes. It just depends. So it's up to you as the cook to make sure that you're watching this. So it's a labor of love, but it's well worth it. I use a garlic press. I get a pound of lechon, pound and a half, and they come in these little bite-sized pieces. So if you have a place where you can pick it up, that's great. If not, just get yourself a little bit of side pork and you just fry it up. You fry it, you cover it up, and make sure that all the water is dissolved out of this, and you can make yourself some quick lechon on your own. I love this dish. I love munggo beans, and I love lechon. So it's kind of like I get the best of both worlds in the way I make it here. So hit that like button, makes it easier for you to find. It also helps with us too. You know, to make things even easier, just hit the subscribe button and then a little bell icon so you know when new videos come out. And the thing is, I'm not looking to have crispy, crunchy lechon in my mungo, but I do want to have a little tiny bit of crunch. All right, so that's nice right there. Perfect. So see, all I do is I skim everything off here, and then I either toss it in the container or I toss it in the sink. Easy enough. All right, it's been about 30 minutes. Now it's time to actually start looking at your munggo beans. Usually you'll see them kind of split apart when they're done. Looks like they're not done yet. Looks like we still got a little bit way to go. But this is when you're kind of looking at your water level. See, I'm looking at my water level here. It's about, the munggo beans are expanding while the water level is decreasing. And this is where you could add a little bit of water. What I'm looking for is a soft texture when I bite into these. Still a little crunchy. See that? Look at that, the mungo is almost done. You want every one of them to open up. Just a little more water. So remember, I started with 8 cups of water, and I put in about almost 4 more cups of water. But I always start with a certain amount and just keep adding water as needed. I don't want to just put it all in there and then at the end I'm like, I have to pull water out because it's too much. Once the munggo beans are the consistency I want them to be, I'll shut this off. Once this is ready, I'm going to add this pot into this pot, and it's time for deliciousness. Let's go. I start the saute portion, put some oil. I start with our onions first. I always start with my onions. Why do I start with the onions? Because they take a little longer to saute. And I've also minced my garlic, so I don't want the garlic to burn. So I'm always going to start with my onions first. Man, that's such a delicious smell. Now I'm going to add the garlic. Don't let it burn. I'm using a simple vegetable oil. You can use avocado oil, any type of oil, other than olive oil. You don't really want olive oil for high heat. Now I want to add the tomates, the tomatoes. All right, the munggo beans are done. I'm gonna shut them off. If you watch any of my other videos, you'll see that what I always do when it comes to sauteing my tomatoes is I want to macerate them, which means I want them to break down a little bit. And I always add, this is where I add my fish sauce. You're gonna add about 2 tablespoons of fish sauce here. And again, you're gonna add more if needed later. It's just the initial 2 tablespoons. And I cover it up. I want that to saute for a little bit. While that's sauteing, let me just check on the munggo beans right here. Okay, that looks great. Looks great. Let me just double check on the texture. This was exactly 48 minutes from start to finish. Texture's perfect. So let me put a little bit more sabao in here. So you want to have just enough sabao where it's kind of soupy still. All right. So I got the tomatoes a little bit mushy the way I like it. Now I'm going to add the lechon. I want this to absorb some of the flavors that are in here. And then I'm going to add my secret ingredient. That's just a few minutes. I don't want this to lose all of its crisp, but I want it to be less crispy than it was before. So that's been in there for about 2 minutes now. So it's softening up. Now, the controversial ingredient. Instead of Dried shrimp, I use sauteed shrimp paste, bagoong. And I use about a heaping tablespoon like that, all right? I know it seems weird and different, but trust me, try it once. Try it once and tell me if it doesn't taste magnificent, doesn't elevate this dish. Call it my secret ingredient, but it's something that everybody loves. And you can just smell that. Woo, that's flavor going in there. So let me let this cook for about a minute here before I add the mungo beans in here. So I want the flavor to penetrate the meat a little bit. And I will dump all this in. It's always good to go from a little pot to a bigger pot. All right. That's still not the final ingredient. We want to get this back to temperature real quick, and we're going to add the final and last ingredient. I want to wait for it to come back to a boil before I add it. This is also where you want to adjust. You want to taste everything, or it's just perfect. Oh man, that is good. All right, it's back to a boil now. Now we add the final ingredient, and this only takes a minute. You just add spinach. I take about half of the spinach you got in here. You kind of eyeball how much you need. Again, you can use any green that you want. I just happen to like spinach. I happen to have spinach. I'm going to use spinach. I always like to cook it with bungos. That's one of my favorite things. It's a milkfish. It's flat. It's just delicious. That's a ton of protein and veggies. It's just an all-around great meal.